Why don't men talk about their emotions? That's a question I get. Well, I don't get asked that because that would imply that people have questions for me. But that's something I hear a lot from the media, my mama, my therapist. Well, and therapist in the past tense. But this is something that I hear a lot, and it's something I kind of wanted to answer, at least my thoughts on it, because my thoughts are the correct thoughts and they're the only thoughts because everything I say is fact. You have to accept it. The reason why men don't talk about their feelings is because there's not always a benefit. If anything, you might get punished. If you feel a certain way about something, there may not be any solution to it, and if you tell someone about it, you might create isolation instead of integration. You might somehow that might be something that drives a wedge between you and someone else when really you're trying to build a bridge. I try to keep to myself. Well, I try to keep to myself, and yet I talk to a camera for 10 minutes straight, so you know how successful I am at that. I was talking to my mom about this, and I told her that, some solutions you just can't talk out. If you're overweight, you can't talk about going to the gym. Just get some Ozempic and all your problems are solved. But you can't talk, there's some things you just can't talk your way out of. If you're in debt, if you're broke, if, if you're bored or something. Talking about how you feel isn't really gonna do any of those things. Some things require action, and I think men are socialized to prioritize action and focus on tangible results and things that drive an outcome, not going through this non-linear, ambiguous, confusing sea of emotions. I don't know how to deal with them. I don't know how to deal with any of it. Most of the time I just feel confused. If people are, how are you doing? If people were to ask me, how are you? And I were to be honest, I would say confused. Just confused. I would just hand them a giant question mark back. But that's not how that question works. You're supposed to say good, how are you? The standard stuff. I don't know if there's gonna be a change. I don't know if there's going to be a shift where we enter a emotional renaissance where men just feel compelled to talk about what they are thinking and feeling. Personally, I don't see it, but maybe, just maybe, it might happen. It is kind of sad though, because, men are more complicated than what they might be portrayed as, especially when men are simple. You just have to do this and do that and they'll be happy. Just make them a sandwich and sleep with them. As if my problems could be solved with, sex and sleep. Like those, and sandwiches, the three S's that a man needs. As if all my problems could be solved with that. What if I just want to relax? What if I just want to talk about something I'm interested in? What if I want to, just talk about my car or the Cowboys, which I will never do, but some men want to talk about that stuff. I think reducing people down to these binaries, their lowest terms is not, it's not really that helpful. When someone tries to go outside the typical man script and go into some unexplored territory, you could be met with backlash. If you say, I feel this, I feel that, you typically have to say, I think, I believe, this is what I know, and use empirical evidence. And while I'm a big believer in empirical evidence, my job is empirical evidence. There's also things I don't understand, actually most things I don't understand, and there's a sense of mystery. And we should hold room for mystery, because mystery's great. I think mystery is where art lives, where you kind of go into the unknown. But in order to go into the unknown, you're gonna have to feel something, because there isn't a law, a theorem, a postulate, whatever you want to say, whatever academic term there is for the unknown. I try to talk about how I feel all the time because that's just it. You know, just do that radical opposite. When no one's doing something, just do the converse. Talking about how you feel, there's no training for it. There's no right or wrong way. But I think some people think there is a wrong way. If you're feeling sad, you just have to start bust out crying. I wish I could bust out crying, but I got dry eyes, so it's very difficult for me to cry. But if you feel happy, you have to contain that. If you're anxious, you know, even though Inside Out and Inside Out 2 kind of answers this question, but surprise, surprise, the protagonist is a girl. I think that, and it's interesting how that movie uses that the male emotions, they use anger as a man and then happiness as a woman or a girl, you know. It's interesting the genders they choose for the certain emotions, but besides that, it's like there are socially acceptable emotions men are allowed to feel, and then there's socially unacceptable ones. And if you're feeling one of the socially unacceptable ones, some people think it's just easier to bottle it up. And I get that. I do it too. I don't know how to navigate these things. I've tried, you know, talking them out, but some things you just have to just do in real time. I try to listen. You know, that's something I've been talking about. I talked about that the last video. Expressing feelings, that's something you got to learn how to do, because typically whenever you try to express your feelings, it's typically you're trying to be romantic with a girl or something, where it's like, I have feelings for you, or, you know, that's not every emotional situation you're going to run into as a guy. Actually, if anything, that's probably only 1% of emotional situations are romantic situations when it comes to men and being emotional. I know for me, I try to take things one day at a time, because I don't know how I'm going to feel tomorrow. I just know that I may not know what I'm going to feel, but I know I'm going to feel something, and I just go from there. And I try to be honest with myself. I try not to lie, because I'm not doing anyone any favors just lying, saying I'm okay, or if I'm sad. If I'm happy, I'm going to be happy, you know. You know, sometimes the Saints win. You know, I'm telling you, sometimes I eat some Bluebell ice cream and I'm happy. And then other times, you know, your boy gets a confusing Jira ticket that spirals into depression. And I express that too. But what I don't do is I try not to lie to myself, because I think that lying to yourself does not help anyone. And I don't know, like, if that's the solution, but that's something I've tried to do. And so far, it's given me farther than doing nothing. And I think that, you know, if we as a culture maybe try to teach men to express uncertainty better, maybe, just maybe we'll start to have better relationships in general. And maybe the heck that'll even maybe help solve the male loneliness epidemic that we're all going, well, not everyone, but at least large chunks of American men are going through. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked, please like and subscribe. Road to 500, you know, October, November, December, we might get there, we might not, but still gonna keep uploading, still gonna keep, you know, doing my thing. Socials linked down below and at the end of this video. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.